Chapter 35, The Other Side. Pietro's trailer was small and simply furnished, with a cot-sized bed and a card table, and a sink and a mini refrigerator for a kitchen. The only personal touch was an old, bandaged-up bureau painted with dragons and the other Chiranis. Chinarais means Chinese, or more likely Chinese thing in French. The word usually refers to things that look Chinese in style, though they're not truly Chinese. Just this footnote looks like it contains useful information, though it truly doesn't. The bureau had looked as though it had traveled the world. Indeed it had. On top sat Pietro's top hat, which looked a bit past its prime. The hat tilted to the side, as though engaged in a conversation with an invisible partner. Pietro was sitting at the card table when they entered. His eyes were red and his hair and mustache were even more beleaguered than usual. It looked as though he hadn't slept. On the table in front of him there were old circus trinkets, a pay bill advertising the Bergamo brothers, and the medallion rose vial that Dr. L had given him, the last remaining scent of the instrument from the Symphony of Smells. He smiled at the sight of the young Trace members. "Cassandra, Max Ernest, I forgot you were coming," he said, standing. "I should make some espresso." "That's okay," said Max Ernest. "We don't really drink espresso." "Oh, right, I forgot. You're still so young. But if there's more hot chocolate..." Cass cut him off. "You could have hot chocolate later." All business, Cass pushed aside the circus ticket and pay bill. She opened her backpack and laid 3 objects on the table in front of Pietro: the tuning fork, the double monocle, and the ring of Toff. Pietro raised his bushy eyebrow. "Ah, well done. Miss Wallace will be very happy. He will put these things in the archives along with the sound prism, the last file of the Symphony of Smells. There they can do no more mischief, I hope." His eyes twinkled briefly. "Unless you steal them back again. Taste, sight, touch, hearing, smell." Max Ernest folded his arms. "One object for each sense." Pietro smiled at him. "Very astute." There was an awkward silence. Then they were all standing. Pietro had not asked his guest to sit down. He looked at them with heavy eyes. "Is there anything else?" Max Ernest didn't know what to say. The question was so unlike Pietro. Usually Pietro was almost as chatty as Max Ernest was, but it seemed very much that he was trying to end the visit. "Yeah, there is," Cass said stiffly. "I have to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the truth." "I always tell the truth, when I can." "When you made us swear an oath to the Trace, when you told me I was the secret keeper, and finding out the secret was the most important thing in the world, when we were fighting the Midnight Sun all this time," she broke off, trembling. It was almost too hard to say. "Yes." "Did you know the you-know-what?" She stopped herself. What's the use of hiding the name anymore? Did you know the secret was a joke?" She split out. "I'm sorry, I don't understand," said Pietro. "Well, I don't understand it either," declared Cass angrily. She started describing her experience with the mummy. Pietro raised his hand just before she could tell him what the mummy had said. "Please do not repeat his words. You know the secret has power." "What? Why? It was a joke. It doesn't mean anything." "Are you sure?" Cass laughed deceivingly. "So you still think it's serious? You wouldn't if you knew it." The old magician shrugged. "Maybe, or maybe those things, the jokes and the serious, are not always so different as you might think." Max Ernest looked confused. "That doesn't make any sense. Something serious and a joke, they're opposites." In his studies of jokes, this was one conclusion he had considered inconceivable. As far as he was concerned, his problems in the past was that he had taken jokes far too seriously. "Think about it. If the secret is a joke, it is not only a joke," said Pietro. "Or, put it on another way, if the biggest secret in the world is a joke, jokes must be a lot more important than you thought." "I still don't understand," said Cass. I know, said Cassandra, and I'm sorry, but we can please to continue this conversation another time. It's a very important yes, but he trailed off. There were tears in his eyes. What is it? What's wrong? As mad as Cass was, it made her uneasy to see the old magician cry. It took the self-righteous oomph out of her anger. It's my brother. Dr. L? What did he do now? Asked Max Ernest. Is he mad because we got out of his trap? He done nothing. He has died. Oh, said Max Ernest. He and Cass were silent. As you know, fatal illness and disasters and their respective specialties. But death itself left them speechless. After you two saw him, my brother had stopped taking those evil elixirs, explained Pietro. I think he wanted to prove that to me that he was true, that he was done with the Midnight Sun. He came for the last visit and looked very old. Very old. He could hardly speak. And then this morning he is no more. His eyes filled with anger and tears. I only wish that I had gotten to tell him that I knew he had changed. I knew that he was sorry. I hated to think that he left me, not knowing that I believed him, that I forgave him. I guess you still love him a lot, Cass ventured. Pietro nodded and opened the door for them. The visit was over. Do not worry too much for me. I will see him again soon, I am sure. Pietro ushered them out. Cass stopped short. She looked stricken. You're not dying, too. Oh, no, he said reassuringly. I mean the Lastrolo. Where's that? Asked Max Ernest. Is that in Italy? Pietro smiled through his tears. It's everywhere. And now, and nowhere. It's a place you cannot touch. Lastrolo, it's the other side. He closed the door with a tad more force than perhaps he intended. Cass and Max Ernest stood outside the trailer, their brains churning. The other side. Max Ernest repeated, turning to Cass. The other side. That's the answer, isn't it? I mean, that's the secret, the riddle. I mean, that's the chicken joke. Not which one came first, the chicken or the egg. It was why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side. How could I not have thought of that? But Cass didn't answer. She was lost in her own thought. Pietro's words still reverberating in her head as well. The other side. The other side. Perhaps Pietro was right. The mummy wasn't telling a joke, she thought, or not only a joke. What if the joke is not the whole secret? Said Cass in a rush. What if the secret is the other side? Or how to get to the other side? Or maybe even something on the other side? What are you saying? I just figured out the joke, and now you're saying that it's not the secret after all? Max Ernest couldn't help being a little irritated. No, it is. Yeah, but it also isn't. Said Cass. Think about it. All this time we've been looking for a secret. We've been so many things. I mean, in the homologist, where did he come from? Senior Hugo's chocolate, where did that take me? There have been some secret places, or dimensions, or something along the way. The other side. Max Ernest tried to understand what she was saying. I've got to tell him. I know what he means. I was all mad about something, and now I had no reason to be mad about. She knocked on the trailer door. Pietro? There was no answer. Pietro, please. I want to apologize. There was still no answer. Cass and Max Ernest looked at each other. Pietro, are you okay? Worried Cass opened the door and cautiously stepped inside. She took the room at a glance. Pietro was nowhere to be seen. Max Ernest looked in after her. Where did he go? Everything in the trailer was just as they left it, except Pietro's hat. It was now lying in the middle of the linoleum floor. As though it had been carelessly tossed and forgotten, Max Ernest picked it up and put it on his head. It fit perfectly, and he still has it to this day. They looked around. There was almost nowhere to hide except under the bed, and there was nothing but balls of dust. This is really weird. There's no way he could have come out without us seeing him. He's a magician, said Max Ernest, peeking beneath Pietro's old Chinese bureau. I'm sure there are all kinds of hidden doors and hatches and places in the floor and in the ceiling. He opened the drawers where they were full of scarves, balls, and dice, coins. Pietro is an expert, after all, at that stuff. You think? Cass wasn't convinced. Maximus nodded, waving one of Pietro's wands. He's probably just snuck out the bottom of the trailer, and then presto, he ran off without us seeing him. How about that? Then why don't we see the opening now? A magician never reveals his tricks. Why trick us at all? He could just have waited for us to leave. Maximus didn't have a good answer. Look, said Cass, picking up the ring of Toff off the floor. It must have been hidden under the top hat. As she turned the ring over in her hand, she felt a familiar buzz. What was it about the touch of this ring that was so powerful? Perhaps on some level the ring thought was a gag, as Maximus had once suggested, but it was also something more. It had brought the mummy back to life. Was it? What might it have done to Pietro? I know what you're thinking, said Maximus, seeing the expression on her face. You're thinking he put the hat on, and then the ring and just went poof, yes? Maximus shook his head. Remember the last time he disappeared, when we first met? They thought he'd went up in a puff of smoke in his kitchen, but it was a trick. Cass disagreed. This time she thought Pietro had truly disappeared. He had gone somewhere else, Lestrolao, the other side, and she was confident that if she needed to, she could find him there. But she didn't say anything to Maximus. He didn't need to believe it if he didn't want to. The other side was her secret. The secret. She was the secret keeper.